So far my favorite way to grow plants is this Dutch bucket system. So I'm going to try and make a video on how to make it, even though there's 1,000 of them on YouTube. This is for my friends. So first you start with your buckets. We're going to drill a hole in the side and put the drain line in. You can get any bucket that you want. The darker ones keep the algae out. Light ones or transparent type buckets will allow for light to get in and create algae, which robs the nutrients and can start clogging up things. So you want to pick a bucket that has the little triangle on the bottom that's 2, 4, or 5, wherever that is, because that's considered food safe. Roughly speaking, there are dyes and other things that are involved, but since we're having perlite and the roots probably will not touch the sidewall, then I feel like this is fine. Then you want to drill holes. So this is what is going to end up going in the sidewall, this little grommet with a drain line in it. So you've got to pick a paddle bit that'll drill your hole the right size. So I have measured the diameter of what I need for that, and then I've picked the appropriate paddle bit. I'm using 1/2-inch tubing for my drain line. So I've picked grommets that will be snug around that. And then I'm using a 1-inch paddle bit, even though something slightly smaller would work better. You still got to get all of this grommet in the hole of the bucket. You want to pick a spot low enough on the bucket to allow complete drain, but I picked a spot just above where this starts to taper because it's going to be easier to get a secure fit with the grommet. And I'd show you drilling the hole, but that's pretty boring. Besides, I need both hands, and I can't run the camera and do that at the same time. So I've marked the 1/2-inch PVC pipe at 3-inch intervals, and I'm going to cut it using my cutty tool. You can use a hacksaw if you don't have a cutty tool. Next thing, we're going to take off all this extra stuff so the grommet has a nice tight seal. And these buckets, plastic's pretty soft, so it doesn't take much just to take that part off. Yep. And stick your grommet inside. Right. Then you want to make sure that you sand the edge of your, don't want any extra plastic, loose plastic, because that'll get into your setup. Plus, plastic's not good for you, and that's why we do food safe stuff. But if you have little particles rolling around, then it's going to get into your plants. So twist that and make sure your grommet doesn't push through. There you go. Got about 1 inch on the inside. And stick your elbow. There we go. Just like that. So now we're going to drill holes in the drain line, and this is the 1/2-inch that we had stuck out of the bucket. So I've got a 7/8 paddle bit. It's just slightly wider. You don't want a whole lot of gap because then light will get in around there, and again, algae. So the idea on this is to go really slow. Don't push real hard because you'll end up gouging the plastic. So if you do start chunking it out really bad, like that started to, you can take a heat gun and carve the hole out, the rest of it, once you've got your lines. the hole. There you go. And now, coming from the bucket, the little L, this will go right down in there. Not much light get in here. All right. Now we're setting up the drain line. So it's a 2-inch pipe, and I've cut it to the length of my platform, just a little bit shorter. This one has to have a bend in it because it's going to go back and drain all the water back into the water reservoir. So you have an end cap on one end, and that end is higher, so you have gravity taking your water back to the reservoir. Then I make a mark directly under each of the spigots, for lack of a better word, because that's where we're going to drill a hole so that the drain comes back into here and takes it off into the reservoir. So now we have the gutter reinstalled after drilling the holes, and now we're going to cut a length that fits from here down below the opening, and we're going to take measurements for each hole because this end is higher. It's going to be about 2, this one's going to be about 2.5, this is going to be about 3, but we'll take exact measurements and then cut them up and insert them. Before you set the buckets in place, you want to line them with a paint strainer, and then you're going to put perlite in here. The reason you put a paint strainer is so that your little pieces of perlite don't fall down the drain line, go through the gutter and into the water reservoir and clog up your system. The next step is to fill the buckets with perlite. This is a material they add to soil to make the soil lighter with more air. So it's better for the plants, but you can use it just by itself. And it comes, you can get it at any of the big box stores in small bags, but of course with anything, if you buy larger bags you get better pricing. So just add it to the buckets. Then you want to soak the perlite. You're trying to rinse off a lot of that fine powder that's in there, and just set it up so it'll all drain out your new little made drain hole. It's going to take a while for it to drain, so just do this and then go find something else to do and come back to it. After you let them drain, put your drain tube in here, scooch it into place and line up the hole. Then you want to line up where your downspout is going to go. And mark where you're going to cut. And you're going to cut off to the side because you're going to have to remove the lid once in a while. And then you're going to have to decide where there's going to be a hole for your pump tubing to come for the drip line. I found on the first build something I wanted to do was take these little tabs off. They're great if these totes are used for storage, but when you're trying to get a lid off so that you can check the water and it's back under something, it's usually going to pinch and be difficult. And it doesn't have to do anything but just sit on top of the water to keep the sunlight out. So I'm going to start there, and then I'm going to cut down here where I've marked the hole. And it's going to be noisy.
Like a hairball from the shower drain to the gay refrain of a happy working song. We'll keep singing without fail, otherwise we'd spoil it. Closing down the garbage pail and
Well, let's see how we did. So snugs back in there. This goes in here. That goes on there. Voila. So we have a drain line. And enough room, got a super huge hole. But anyway, the pump tubing will come out there and form the drip line across the top. So I get the pond pump in there, and it runs up the line and across and into the drip irrigation line that goes into each bucket. And there you go. Water in, drains back out, goes back into the reservoir, and this is where you put your nutrients. So that's why you can reuse the perlite for a long time, whereas regular soil or potting soil gets fatigued after it uses the nutrients out of that. So, and there you go. Your next step is filling the buckets with perlite. Perlite is a really lightweight material. It's usually used to add air to make soil lighter, but if you use straight perlite, you can use it over and over again. And you should probably get a larger container. Get what you can find. You might want to wear a mask.